Perfect. Welcome, everyone. This is our Getting Started with Droplet training series, and this one is specifically for submission managers. Happy to have everyone here today. And there we go. You are welcome throughout this training to post any questions within the chat or to unmute yourself and ask questions. Anything that you ask is probably relevant to other people attending this training or anybody that views the video. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask those. Let's get started. Today, we're going to be going over just some welcome and introductions. If you haven't seen me before, and then we'll go over managing forms and then taking action on submissions, and hopefully have a little bit of time to answer any questions. My name is Shanna. I am the Customer Education Manager here at Droplet. My whole job is to give you the tools and information that you need to be successful with our platform. So if you have any questions, if there are things that are missing, all feedback is very welcome, and I want to make sure that you are getting all the information that you need. So I'll be throwing in some links into the chat. I'll also include them in our follow-up email so that you have access to those as well if you didn't get around to saving those. They are also available, all these articles, within this help icon when you are logging into Droplet. That takes you to our documentation website. There are some quick access areas here, or you can type in anything that you are having questions about, and it'll pull up relevant articles. For those of you who are new or newer to using the Droplet platform, today's webinar will provide you with an overview of its capabilities and some ways clients are using it to process their forms that may be similar to how you'll be using Droplet. Please reach out to us if you would like to have a conversation around specific processes you are doing and how they can be done with Droplet. You're not quite sure how to do that, we'd love to assist you. Today, we are going to take a tour of the Droplet platform and focus on how you can use Droplet to manage your forms and specifically process submissions. If you are going to be doing this and managing users and their permissions for your organization, you may want to join us next week for our Getting Started with Droplet webinar that's tailored to platform administrators. During that session, we'll discuss setting up permissions for your users, managing data sets and forms, and overall Droplet account management so that your team stays organized and efficient. I'm going to give you that link, but you can sign up for that training and any other trainings that we have coming up. Inside that sign up for open office hours link that you see in the chat. And if you have any additional questions, you're always welcome to email us at support@droplet.io. I do want to go over just a bit about user permissions here at the beginning. When you first create an account on Droplet, your permissions will default to this one on the left, which is the lowest level until your platform administrator increases them. So if you log in for the first time and you see this menu on the left, it's likely your permissions haven't increased from the first time your account was created. If you log in and see the menu on the right or a variation of this menu on the right, you have altered permissions, increased permissions from your platform administrator. You may also see a couple other things on here like packets and data sets in your navigation menu, depending on your contract and the level of access that's been set up for you. It's also possible that you may have a menu somewhere in between here, such as home, my assignments, my submissions, all submissions, because your administrator is able to create custom permissions for your organization, and those may have been set up already. If you're ever missing something that you need in order to process submissions, just let your platform administrator know that your permissions need to be adjusted, or if you're not sure who your platform administrator is, you can reach out to us. some of you may need to manage forms as well as submissions. So let's start by looking at the forms page. When you're logging into Droplet, and again, these menu items may look different, but we navigate over here to this forms page. Oftentimes, school districts or other organizations share these links to start a new form by replacing the old links in their website with the new Droplet form links. The links for Droplet forms never change. No matter how many updates you make to these forms, that link will always be the same. So wherever your form is in the development process, you can come here and grab the link and share it however you need. If your form should only accept, and let me show you real quick. So there are two different ways to grab that link. So the first one would be to click this button here on the bottom that says view form. And with my permissions, I do have builder access, which means I can make changes to these forms. This might not be a button for you, but you should all have this view form button if you have access to the forms page. And that will open up a new tab with the form all ready for a new submission. And you can go ahead and just copy the URL that's here. Another way to access that form link is to select these three-dot menu here, this hamburger menu, and go to copy link. And that will prompt you here, letting you know the link has been copied. If I go and open up a new blank tab and paste, it gives me that form link. So you can provide that in emails, in your website, wherever you need to send that form link. If your form should only accept submissions during a certain time frame, you can manage that here instead of removing the link from your website. You can deactivate the form so it won't accept submissions. And when the window opens, you can, when the window for those submissions opens up again, you can turn it back on by activating it. And that is done here. So here you can see all enabled forms. And this is also the only view that we have here on this forms page. But I can see any archived, active, or just all forms here. And if I need to disable this, and I think more often than not, it's something like an application form that is accepting only a certain time frame. So I can just come in here and disable. This is not published, so that wasn't a great example for you. Let me try that again with a different one. Here, if I disable, you can see that this tag here says disabled. And when that time frame opens up again, I select enable to allow access for submissions. When the form is disabled, your users, if they try to view the form, will receive a message like this. Unfortunately, this form is disabled. So if that error message ever pops up for you, you know that you need to come back and enable the form. You can also update the form card here and add to the description or edit tags to help your team manage your forms. This, anytime you make edits on here, this updates the form cards for everyone in your organization. So make sure your team has talked about an organization strategy. The way to do that here is by selecting this three-dot menu again, clicking edit form. Here you can edit the name of the form and the description. The sequence ID is for forms that have a specific submission ID. Anytime it's submitted, it will move up in sequence and give you a new ID here. We see that a lot with purchase order forms when they want to apply a purchase order number to it. That's what that is. And then these other options here are providing a barrier to anybody outside of your organization so they won't be able to submit any forms. So if you click sign on required to view form and sign in, always submit form as sign in account, This will limit submissions to only people who are signed into Droplet. It will also prompt people when they click on the form link to sign into their Droplet account if they are logged out. Your platform administrator may have already set up tags for your district and use them in permissions to filter the forms you see. This is particularly helpful for districts with many different departments using Droplet. You may add additional tags if your department would like other ways to organize your forms. Maybe you'd like a tag to indicate which forms are used for onboarding, for example, and we can see here on this account that the forms already have tags associated with them. Here we see what department it is for and the type of form, which this is an enrollment form. And it allows for you to filter by different tags and values. So I can see if you have multiple departments and you're trying to see all of the forms for student services, here it will filter down and it was just the one form. So that's handy. It can also, if we are the platform administrator and restricting user permissions and want to restrict which forms people have access to, using that department is a great way to restrict access to forms that people don't need access to. Another thing you can do here is bulk submit. A form needs to be set up properly to be able to accept bulk submissions. How that happens, and I have an example here. We see it a lot with teacher contracts. Here we select the hamburger menu again and click the option for bulk submit. And I would download a template. I'm not sure that my template will be viewable in these permissions, but it's a CSV file, which gives me all of the fields that I need to actually submit the form for as many people as I want to submit it for. And then I upload that spreadsheet here. It checks any validations, make sure the submission can actually go through. And then it will send out all of the teacher contracts that you are including in that spreadsheet to all of the different teachers so they can fill out their sections, and you don't have to do it individually. If you are hoping to do bulk submit with one of your forms, but you're not sure that it is working, I'm going to supply a link here in the chat that can give you an idea of how to use bulk submit and if your form is if it's available for your form. Okay, if we are moving on to submissions, so we're first going to talk about exporting submissions. And most of this is done here in this All Submissions tab. The My Assignments will only show you forms that are assigned to you, submissions that are assigned to you. And this My Submissions will show any submissions that I initiated, in this case, for this account of Marley Superintendent. I haven't submitted any form, so I don't have any records here. But I do have forms that I have assignments to, and I can also take actions here if I need to. But most of the time, we will be within this All Submissions page, which gives, again, this is dependent on your roles and permissions, what submissions you are seeing. But it'll give you access to all the submissions that you have permissions for. And you can filter down to find the types of forms, the status of form that you need, all of these compiled together. And I'm going to do this contract form. So I'm seeing all of the completed forms for this contract for professional service. And if I want to export, if there were multiple, I select, and I can click this to select all submissions here. I click on the Actions menu drop down, and I select Export. And you can choose if you want a CSV file or a spreadsheet. Some other formatting options, if you have a table in your form, you want all of that in line. If you want to include the links, if there is an upload that people are providing, you can click to include the link in your CSV file so that you can just click inside the spreadsheet and open up that file that people added. You can click this to deselect all droplet data. This is information that is captured for every submission. So we have an ID for every submission, the version of the form, and then the submitted by name and email. Sometimes those are important, but I can deselect all the droplet data. And here we can see additional details, and these have to do with the activity of that submission. So who it was assigned to, what status it's at, and any other details. And I select all of the fields that I want to include within this export. And I can also click here to keep my formatting options for this form so that every time I have to do an export, I will have my same settings when I go to do it again. On this all submissions page, we can see here, I showed you the filter a little bit, but we have different columns here, which are scrollable if you have additional columns. You'll see the status. Not started means that somebody has entered in information and saved that information. It is not viewable to us yet. It will be once it is submitted. Once it's submitted, you'll see this in progress button here. That means people are still taking action on this submission. Or you'll see completed, which means that the form has been gone through all of the workflow steps and it is completed. And another thing you might see, if I come up here to filters by status, is rejected. And that means that the form has been halted in its progress because of some errors or whatever your process is. It is now halted and no progress will be made on this form. Now, some of you may need to download submissions as PDFs and store them in digital or physical personnel files. You can start by using the search or filters to find the submissions that you are looking for. And if you are downloading multiple submissions as PDFs, you'll want to make sure that it's from the same form. So here I'm going to filter by form, and I'm going to try out the direct deposit form, see if I have multiple there. And I only want the ones that are completed. And I can select all of these and do a PDF download. Now in this direct deposit, I don't know if we can zoom in, but this right here is an upload where they are including a copy of their voided check or bank authorization letter. And these might be things that I want to include in my download. So here I want to click include private files. And so now we can see this is a clickable link. I can also include compatible files in the PDF, which will, if they are compatible, just attach them to the end of this download. Here you can see that that file has been added. Or I can just compile all of this information into a zip file. I can also compact the layout or some other formatting options and include different submission details. So information about the form, data verification key, or the activity log. So if I select that, you'll see at the end of this submission here, I'm including all of this activity that happened with this form. And then you'll download and save it as your process dictates. Okay. Another thing that you might be doing with these submissions is kind of managing the workflow. And by managing, I sometimes say troubleshooting or kind of taking a look at when things were completed. So I'm going to filter again because I don't want to see all of these not started submissions. And I'm going to filter by in progress so we can see some of those. And for this first one, the athletics volunteer request, if I come in and select that submission and I view the activity log, I can see when it was created, when it moved forward. So it moved and it was assigned to a principal, they rejected it, it was finished, but then we unrejected it. So I can see everything that happened with that submission and the date associated with it. So if I'm looking at in progress submissions, I'm like, what's going on? Why isn't this completed yet? I can take a look at the activity log. On rare occasions, someone may be assigned to a submission upon completion, or you may need to stop a submission from progressing. You can remove the assignment by checking the box for that submission and clicking unassign from this actions menu. Please use this action carefully. If an in-progress submission is unassigned, it won't move forward in the workflow. It'll just halt the progress. You can also use this remind feature to send a quick reminder email to anyone assigned to a submission. Again, you do this by selecting the submission you want to or multiple submissions, clicking remind from the actions drop-down menu. It will open up a new box where you can see if there were multiple reminders. I'd be able to select those here. And I can edit the email to say anything here. Please complete today, or any information that you want to make sure that this is seen and given the appropriate priority. I'm going to cancel as I don't actually want to send that email. Another action that is rarely used is the unreject feature. And I've been having issues with this because most of my rejected submissions are from a year ago. But you can find your rejected submission and you can unreject. And I'm going to get an error message. I need to include more recent submissions so we can see that in progress. But I can unreject it and it will go to the workflow step that rejected it. And you can do that by selecting one or multiple. And let me make sure I covered everything here. Oh, there's one more feature that might be useful. Occasionally, you'll have a submission that's assigned to somebody and that person is sick or out of town, and this is an urgent submission that needs to be completed. So in this case, this athletics volunteer request has been sitting for a while. Marley, superintendent, is on vacation and this needs to be completed. So I can come in here, I select the submission by checking this box, and I select the actions menu and I click assign, and I can find any active Droplet account users within this dropdown. I can search to find them, or I can select someone else and add their name and email here. And if I assign this to Erin HR, you'll see that assignment has changed. Now Erin will get an email alerting her to this submission, and they will be able to open up the submission, complete it, and hopefully move forward this submission. Okay, and then we want to talk about archiving submissions. As you can see here, we have 170 submissions that I'm managing here. It might be hard to find everything that I need using these filters, or I just kind of want to clean it up a little bit. So my process, and a good process that I would recommend to people, would be once all actions are completed within Droplet, and any outside processes once a submission is completed. So for if I go to forms that are direct deposit forms that are the status of completed, these ones are pretty outdated as when they were completed. And I've already done the actions within my payroll system that I needed to with these. So I'm going to select all of these and archive them so they aren't clogging up my all submissions view. When you archive a submission, it will archive it for everybody who's able to view that submission. So that's why I say once all of the actions are completed outside of Droplet. Otherwise, somebody may have needed to do something with that form and now they can't find it because our all submissions view defaults to only active submissions. But it's a good way to kind of clear up any clutter. And now I'm down to 165. It looks like I could probably do a little bit more with that to clear it up and make sure that I'm, using this actively, using the all submissions page actively. But I can always unarchive if I made a mistake. So I can find those forms within my archived menu here, and it'll filter to all of the archived forms, and I can unarchive those if I need to. Same process. Last thing I wanted to mention real quickly is some of you may have access to packets. So if you have packets within your contract and you have access to packets, this is a great way of managing submissions that need to be clumped together. So a lot of times onboarding packets or registration packets are included. Here we can see what the templates are and what forms are included in those templates. So certificated onboarding packet might look different than a classified onboarding packet with different forms. And I'm able to track those within this tracking tab. Here I can search for, maybe there's a user that I'm looking for their packet information to see, their progress on completing all of those forms. Or in this case, I only have 7 packets here, so I can scroll to find the ones that I want. And then Beckett Teacher Onboarding Packet is work in progress, but not everything has been completed. So I may want to remind them. And what I can do is I can view these submissions here. Oh, and it's not showing me everything that I need. There might be some that are archived then. Yep, looks like those were archived, probably in a demonstration. But I filter those down, and the ones that need reminding, I can select those and then send a reminder. These are archived, so I can't send a reminder, but that's the process for that. It's a great way to make sure that packet information is being completed on time, and viewing submissions here gives you that already filtered down view to show you only the submissions needed. And then I can select all of those and download if I need to. Yeah, so those are some processes and some information on how to manage submissions. I hope that was helpful for you. If you want more information or video guide on creating and assigning packets, I'm going to put a link into the chat, and I'll also include it in that follow-up email. But thank you, everybody, for coming to this training session. Any questions or concern, please email us at support@droplet.io. I'll hang out for a little bit if you have questions that you'd like answered. Otherwise, thank you so much for attending, and I will send you a follow-up email with this recording.